Hey guys, how are you? This is the next part of the N55 build series. In this video, we're actually going to be doing the epoxy deck. So I'm going to run you guys through the process of doing that, from actually mixing the epoxy and showing you guys exactly where to get it from, as well as kind of like how I laid out the tape on the engine block and running you through all the little miscellaneous things that you need to know. So let's get into it. So the brand you're going to want to go with, don't mind that mine came this way. So you're going to want to go with Epoxy 54. I will leave a link in the description. So a couple things you want to go over. It's specifically designed to adhere permanently to aluminum, which obviously being that these are aluminum blocks, it's going to be perfect for your application, whether it's an N54 or an N55. They also are non-shrinking, non-expanding, and good for intense heat and pressure, which is obviously good if you're running a lot of boost, which I'm going to be with the Big Boost 3.4 kit. You're gonna wanna crack this lid open. You're gonna wanna take this concoction that they give you. I'm not gonna pretend that I know what it is, but this concoction they give you, you're gonna pour the entire thing in here. You're gonna mix it, and then once it turns almost like this royal blue color, that's when you're gonna know you're good, and you're gonna wanna put it in a squirt bottle, kind of similar to this. This you can get on Amazon, they're cheap, they're like $5. I'll leave a link for the ones I bought if you guys just want to buy the ones that I got. Just a couple things I want to go over is I would recommend getting some kind of a painter stick like this. I used a Dremel. You're going to want to go, I measured 3/4 of an inch and then obviously cut in so it's thin enough. Let me show you why you're going to want to do this. Okay, please do not mind my absolutely atrocious cuts. It works. In this case, we're gonna do function over form. So like I said, this 3/4 of an inch, you're gonna wanna insert this piece into the coolant jackets here. And you just wanna make sure that it's thin enough that you can run it through all the coolant jackets, really without much resistance. You're gonna wanna use this so you can pack down the sugar that you're gonna wanna use inside of the coolant jacket. So like I said, you're gonna wanna go down 3/4 of an inch, and here it gets a little stuck, but it's okay. We will figure it out as we go. And then obviously here, substantially bigger, but this is obviously where your Mickey Mouse flange would be kind of seated, where the coolant would flow through for that. Once you actually fill this with the epoxy, it does take 24 hours to cure. So this kind of will be like a 2-day video. And then I'll show you guys how to drill, Dremel with the head gasket, so on and so forth. So as you can see, we got this side done. Let me get out of here so my shadow is not obstructing. You can see filled in with sugar the whole way through, comparatively to the side that's not. Like I said, you want to take your painter stick right here. Let me just switch hands. And you're going to want to kind of just, like I said, you're just going to want to kind of just run it through and just flatten it out. As you can see, the stick is like kind of just making contact with the sugar, and you're just going to want to use this stick kind of just to flatten all of it out so it's the same all the way through. The corners might end up getting a little more than the inner pieces, but I used almost an entire squeeze bottle worth of sugar for one side. So expect 2 of those to properly fill each side. All right, so we filled the other side with sugar, as you can see. Ran through it with the stick like I showed you guys, and everything is as level as it can be. Okay, so now it comes on to the fun part of actually popping this open. Alrighty, so what you're going to do, like I said in the beginning, you're going to want to open this up and just mix it really good until it turns that royal blue color This does have a pretty quick activation time. So let's just... Let's quickly move over to the engine and let's start filling. Just like the salt, you want to take your time and you just want to fill it just to about the top. All right, guys, and as you can see, I've laid the epoxy on both sides. And you could see here, you want to try to get it as level as possible. You guys, it is a few hours later. As you can see, it's starting to cure. Like I said, within the next 24 hours from when I poured it, it'll start to harden. All right, guys, so it has been 24 hours. What you're gonna wanna do now, obviously by this point, the epoxy would have dried, as you can see. I did this off camera. You would use your OEM head gasket. I'm using I'll grab it for you, an OEM N55 gasket. You're gonna use these dowel pins to center the gasket. And then from there, you're gonna mark holes for the coolant ports. I'm using a bottle cap on the end of the bit, just that way when I actually bottom out the drill, I don't damage anything with the block. So you're gonna wanna drill a hole like that. You're just gonna wanna repeat it through all the steps. So one thing you want to be careful with too is you don't want to try to spend too much time drilling these holes out, because what will happen is, or what can happen is, the bit getting as hot as it will to obviously drill through this, being it's such a hard surface, you don't want to actually reheat the adhesive almost to the point where it becomes malleable again. So you just want to be careful while you're doing that. Let me drill the rest of these holes. All right, so all the holes are drilled. If you want, you could obviously Dremel to kind of bridge them. I connected the OEM coolant pipe. We're gonna connect a hose, and then I used a 1/2-inch drill bit to get a pretty sizable hole here. I'm gonna put a piece of hose in here so I can flush out this side. You wanna put the motor at like a 45-degree angle when you go to feed the water in. That way, obviously, you can fill up the ports and flush all the sugar out. So I'm gonna get that done. And as you can see, all the water is clear. That's a good sign. It just means all the sugar for the most part is flushed out. Now we're gonna switch to the other side. how the water seems to be clear coming out of all the holes. Then I would say that that was a success. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to do a epoxy closed deck. There were a couple, I want to say not misinformation, but a couple things I did kind of not say correctly. When I said that the epoxy can get malleable, obviously if you get it too hot, you would have to get it extraordinarily hot for that to happen. Obviously it's a chemical reaction, it gets very hard, it does adhere permanently to the aluminum. Something you do want to look out for, something that I dealt with, is the bits for the drill do get very hot. Obviously you're drilling constantly into this hard surface. You just want to be careful for hot pieces getting flown. You want to be careful for debris getting inside of the cylinder walls and things like that. And you just want to make sure that you blow everything out pretty good with some compressed air. So other than that, hope you guys enjoyed. And for the next episode, I'm going to go over head studs, putting the head on, etc. And hope you guys enjoyed.